All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. This is So I Did a Thing Live. Um, so tonight is a night of firsts on the show. I don't know what that was. I don't know why I just jerked like that. Probably out of excitement. So my guest tonight um, is Amy Olseth, and she is a holistic interventionist. She deals with people that, um, are struggling with addiction and all that. And this is her first time on LinkedIn Live. But it is also the first time she's the very first person since I've been on LinkedIn to propose marriage to me. And that happened, y'all, in the comments. I can pull up the post and show you. So it's a night for first. So my fiance, this is my new fiance, Amy Olseth. Hi, Amy.
Well, when you say it like that, I actually blush a little bit. So look, got to be careful what you put in comments.
I know it, right? So look, just so everybody that's watching knows, I did a post a week and a half, 2 weeks ago or something, and I kind of have this recurring post I do every week or two of a Nathan Fillion gif, and he's just like, and I do that, and I put that look when, and then I do something, usually making fun of people on LinkedIn. And it was whenever something like you brag about your 60,000 follower account, but all your comments are full of marriage proposals and rose and heart emojis. And Amy said, Chris, I've been meaning to ask you something. And she didn't even have to ask it. And I just said, yes, 1,000 times yes. So that's where that's from.
That's how it happened.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being here. I am excited about this.
Yeah, I was, I've been looking at lives and I've attended some lives as a guest, but you are my first, Chris. So
well, good. I'm glad I could be your first. If y'all are in the comment, if y'all are here, I see some people here. If y'all are here, drop a comment and let us know you're here, please. So we don't feel like it's just us talking, which is not a bad thing. But
although I think we'd get along, and it'd probably be a good start to our life together.
Yeah, exactly right.
Someone's going to catch this and think that we're engaged. We're really not. Right? We're really not. But
and this is the first time we have ever talked, aside from comments. It's in the comments on posts. It's the first time.
And I feel like I know you a little bit. That's the amazing thing, I guess, when you present as yourself on LinkedIn, then when you actually meet with someone.
Yeah, and I've never, I don't think, whether it's on a live or hopped on a Zoom with someone or whatever, that I met on LinkedIn and then talked to them virtually in real life, been disappointed. You know what I mean? Because most people show up more or less as themselves.
Absolutely. And so, I love it, whether it's just, pals that I meet or chess mates that I meet or clients. Like sometimes we just skip all the intros because it's like we already feel like we have some sort of rapport. And that's been one thing that's really surprised me. I mean, I don't know why it surprised me, but it consistently happens. So thank you for having me, Chris. I'm excited to see what we talk about.
I am too. Like we were talking backstage, we were like, she was like, I didn't really plan anything. And I was like, that is absolutely perfect because I don't make any plans either. Like I hit that button and then we just start talking. So
very good.
We did bring snacks. I was not going to eat chips. And then Amy holds this bag up. And I was like, oh, I got to eat chips now. Like I usually don't eat chips because then I'll have.
Well, these are my favorite, the classic Lay's. And I figured we'd make it a party size. And then you show up with your sad little bag of chips over there.
And it's like half eaten. I ate half of it for lunch the other day.
But so we have snacks. We just need an audience.
We have an audience. And like nobody is commenting. There are 4 people watching.
They're watching us with our snacks. Yeah,
they're straight up creeping. Like, what is fixing to happen? Like, I don't know. So yeah, and I'm excited about this because after you and Amanda Knight and Darren all met, like for that first time, and then for the next 2 weeks after that, it was posts of clips of y'all Zoom calls, and that was like the best thing ever. Like there was so much laughing going on and so much cutting up. I was like, yeah, this is going to be fun. I know it's good.
Yeah, those are 2 of my first real friends on LinkedIn, and they've held the they've held the test of time. Oh, now
Yeah.
you want chips.
Now you want chips. I know. Like now I'm really don't want my sweet chili Doritos. Now I want some
The
classic
classic.
Lays. Yeah, you can't go wrong
Yeah.
with them. They're thin and they're
Well, thank you
crispy
for
and
that. Thanks for the shout out with the
yeah,
chips.
they're greasy and salty and it's just perfect.
So yeah, let me just shout out to 𝙤𝙑𝙀𝙀 𝙊𝙀𝙀 and Amanda Knight, because they have, I didn't know what I was doing when I got on LinkedIn, but I knew that I would find my people if I just kept being me. And it wasn't but a few weeks of being active until I gravitated towards both of them and have watched them grow in their businesses and in Amanda's nonprofit, 𝙬𝙀's Purpose. And it's just been awesome to be a part of it. And they always support me. Like, I always feel like they've got my back, like in my personal life and on the platform, which tend to kind of mesh together sometimes. So,
and people
those are my girls.
Yeah, people that aren't on LinkedIn don't get it. Because you tell people you're on LinkedIn, or I do a live show on LinkedIn, they're like, "Wait, what? LinkedIn? What is LinkedIn?"
Yeah.
But the people I've found here have been amazing. Like, I have a group of friends. We have each other's phone numbers and talk off platform and stuff like that all the time, and it's just like we've always known each other. Doesn't matter that they're across the country.
Yeah.
Like, these are my people.
Did you get really active during lockdown? Is that kind of when your engagement, if you will, picked up?
So I got on LinkedIn the very end of December of last year.
Okay.
And thought that I was going to get on LinkedIn, post some stuff about my business, and leads were going to come pouring in. Why is my mom calling me? My mom's calling me.
Well, she found out that you're getting married.
Yeah, she's watching. She's the one on YouTube right now going, Christopher, what's going on?
You haven't called. It was very, very sudden, Mom.
Yeah, I know. It just kind of happened. What was the question? Oh, how I got on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Thought I was going to post some, stuff about our business, and the leads were going to come pouring in, and it would be all great. And then I realized you can't just post business-related stuff. I didn't realize that. Amy Wills helped me realize that. I reached out to her and was like, "Hey," she's one of my very first connections here, and I was like, "Hey, like, how does this work? Like, I know you do digital marketing, and I'm not like trying to get anything for free, but can you throw me some tips?" And she was like, "Just post about whatever the hell you want to post about. Like, just be you." And I've gotten one customer off of LinkedIn, which is fine, but it's the connections. Like, that's what keeps me here. Like, I'm here for fun now.
Yeah.
More or less.
Well, that's good. Well, kudos to you for doing it without the motivation behind it. It shows through. It shows that you're having a good time and you're sincere, which is why I wanted to do a thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of like why I wanted to do these lives is now my sister's texted me. Holy crap.
See, news spreads. This is what's happened.
There's two. Oh, she's watching. Okay. Hi, Kara.
Hi, sis.
But that's part of what, like, the very first live I ever saw was Amy's. I don't even remember who was on it, but she was just like talking and hanging out and talking about what they do. And I was like, that's what I want to do. And then it turned into it. I wanted to highlight people in my community, but also get to know them. And it turned into like, this is one of the highlights of my week is getting to hang out live with somebody. Have basically all it is just a get to know you kind of call.
Right.
And people join in the comments, although nobody's really commenting. And there's six people watching, y'all. Come on.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's all right.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
It truly is.
Yeah. So tell us, like, we know you're a holistic interventionist. Tell us what a holistic interventionist is.
Well, I wouldn't expect you to know because I made it up.
Okay, that's awesome. I love that.
So
Don't you love it when you can create your own titles?
I did. I
Yeah,
totally
that is
did,
what's
because
up.
I'm a registered nurse. I've been a registered nurse for over
Hi, sis. That's my sister.
over 15 years, and oh my goodness. Hey, Simon. Simon was my first podcast, and
Okay,
yeah.
awesome.
But you're my first live, Chris. So,
Right on.
I feel like I'm leaving a string of
And just so
of
everybody knows,
first.
I don't normally eat while I'm live, but I kind of felt some pressure whenever she showed up with that big bag of potato chips. So I had to do something.
I'm gonna open it. I'm never gonna live this down.
Yeah, you're gonna have to eat something. Like, I normally don't eat.
I want to at least say what I do before
Yeah,
I
do that.
start
Yeah,
eating
let's do
chips,
that.
right?
Yeah, let's do that. And I'm gonna keep
So
crunching in the mic.
that sounds perfect. So my business and my self-appointed title is holistic interventionist. It's not completely made up. um, I'm a combination of a registered nurse and an addictions interventionist.
Okay.
I've been a registered nurse for over 15 years and started in critical care, was a very committed, dedicated ICU nurse in the trenches. And eventually, after about a decade, it started getting to me, to the point where it was hard to continue to go to the ICU. I was having even some trauma outside of work, like hearing ventilator alarms, hearing, having like flashbacks almost to situations. And so I had always wanted to work in mental health, and I said, now's the time. Now I'm experienced enough to kind of I was not mature enough to work in that field when I was a new nurse.
Yeah.
And I saw so much, Chris, in the ICU. I saw so much
Oh, I bet.
untreated, aside from the trauma that I saw to the physical body. I saw so much untreated mental illness that was worsening illnesses. I saw the dynamics within families. I saw people that were coming in with one thing, and then 3 days later were like, oh my gosh, they're actually withdrawing from alcohol. Like, this is, and I just kept seeing us putting band-aids on these bigger issues that, so I went into work at a detox. I was a nurse at an inpatient residential detox, and really loved it, really loved what I did. But I saw a lot of things I didn't agree with as well. And one of the things I saw was people coming in from interventions, addiction interventions, that didn't necessarily sign up voluntarily for treatment. And so they're there, but not completely of their own free will. And although a lot of them did really well, a lot of them came in, and the first week or two was full of resentment and feeling like they'd been betrayed by their loved ones, and not really getting into the program because they didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
At the same time, as a nurse, I think there's a time and place for interventions, because to understand addiction is to know that someone's brain is, if they're at severe level of disease, their brain is essentially hijacked. So to ask them to make a mature, informed decision and decide to go to treatment, well, that's not practical for everyone either. So there's a very fine line between medical severity and use disorder. And that's kind of it's my sweet spot, where I can help people using a nursing approach to help them develop their own treatment plan. And for some people, that's going inpatient, and for some people, that's working a program outside of a residential. So I call it holistic because I look at the whole picture. I look at the whole family, and I look at where they are and where they want to be. And I just help guide them with my medical knowledge and my knowledge of addiction. So that's what I do. And I eat chips.
And you eat chips, right on. I had to move those things, otherwise I'd have sat there and just kept eating. That's amazing because people tend to want to do a one-size-fits-all approach.
Yep.
Where, okay, they find this great program, which it may be, I'm not saying that it's not, but they find a great program or a great, inpatient facility, or they call one of those numbers off of the commercials on TV or whatever, and think that that's going to help their wife, husband, brother, whatever.
Right.
And it's not a one size fits all. Everybody looks different. Their addiction looks different.
Absolutely. And that's what a lot of times people DM me, Chris, and they're like, I don't think they're necessarily trying to get free advice, because I'm happy to consult with anyone that wants a consult, like within reason, without charge. So people will ask me, well, what do you think about this? And what do you think about this? And sometimes the answer is as simple as, I don't know that person enough to even make a recommendation. Like, I need to know what's driving their use and what they want to do. And so a lot of my responses are, you could try this, but unless I'm actually in there working with them, I don't know what's going to work.
The drugs or the alcohol or whatever it is not the problem. It's just how the problem presented itself.
You got it. I don't have to tell you, Chris. You know how it is. There's that's what I say. There's something underneath. You take the drug away, you take the substance away. Something's gonna rear itself, and that's what you really have to work with, and that's how we get rid of the stigma, right? It's
exactly
about the underlying thing driving the use,
whatever it is, because people so many times look at it. We'll just say addicts, since that's what we're talking about, but the same is true of felons. And all they see is a drug addiction, and now they're just a worthless drug addict.
Right.
But what pushed them to do that? Yeah, that may have been just something as, and I use the term loosely, innocent as going to a party and somebody offered it to them. But what pushed them to keep doing it?
Right.
Like, did they really just enjoy getting high, or is there some sort of underlying issue? And some people may just enjoy getting high.
There are some that start that way, for sure. I think.
Yeah, and I think I was going to say, and you said exactly what I was fixing to say, is it always just starts that way. But then you start turning to that thing as a crutch, where you've had a bad day, now you need to kill a 6-pack, and then in a month you're killing a 12-pack after work, or you're going through an 8-ball of Coke every day, or whatever the case is.
Yep.
That's your crutch.
That's why we say, I'm sure you've heard this, 1 is too many and 100 or 1,000 is never enough.
Never enough. Yep.
And that's the difference between someone who has a use disorder and somebody that maybe uses something, not that I'm going to promote that, but someone that drinks occasionally or uses recreationally. There is a difference. There's a continuum of use, and some people go to the severe end, and some people hang out in the social use category. And there's a whole lot of reasons why people move along that continuum. But I think one of the biggest things is knowing where your own being is on the continuum and starting there. And
exactly.
that can be really tricky to self-assess.
It can. And I was, we were talking backstage, it started off doing it on the weekends, and I could go buy 25, my drug of choice was meth. So I could go buy a $25 sack of meth and it would last me all weekend. And then, but I'm the type that if I like something, if a line this big is good, what's a line this big going to do?
Yeah. What's that going to do?
Oh, now it's this big, but let's make it that fat, so that was me. Like, if I like it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. And I liked it. So that led from $25 worth, on the weekends, to a $250 8-ball gone in 2 or 3 days. And then I'm going to get another one. So I just got arrested. So my mind was already in a bad place. I wasn't doing drugs when I got arrested. It wasn't until afterwards. But it's always just starts as a recreation. Like, in my mind, I don't understand just doing it recreationally on the weekends, because that's not how my mind was wired.
Right. That's exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's not how, no, that's not how you process risk. And
Right. Like if I'm gonna get high, let's get high. If I'm gonna get drunk, let's get drunk. Like I don't know why we're gonna mess around, you know?
no, that's a true statement right there. And do you think that, I mean, you shared a little bit with me that you stopped while you were in prison. What would happen, or I mean, that's a hard question, but do you think that that was your fork in the road, or do you
Yeah,
think?
definitely it was. I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't got arrested. If I hadn't gone to prison, I got arrested, got out on bail, got probation, but in the meantime, I started doing drugs. So I was just like way out in left field. Was on the run from the law, all kinds of stuff. But if I hadn't got arrested again and then gone back to prison, I don't know what would have happened. Because I was doing dumb shit, man. Like I was like, I'd be up for 4 or 5 days, and that's not very much compared. I don't know how many of y'all watching are familiar with meth, but I've known guys stay up for 3 weeks before. And I'm sure you've seen that too. Stay up 14, 21 days, come into the hospital just dehydrated and drawn up. And I've known guys that have done that. I couldn't do it. After about 3 days, my mind would shut down, even though my body would still be awake. Like I'd be hallucinating and seeing stuff, and I'd be out in the yard backing trucks up to the oil rig where I thought I was working, I guess, and come to and don't have a clue. They're like, Chris, like you wigged all the way out on us, bro. And like, I don't remember any of that.
Were there thoughts of wanting to stop before you stopped? I mean, were you ever like, this isn't going well for me? Or was it just
no
go mode?
It was go mode. And I was in denial, you know, like I was on the run and my mom and dad knew something was going on. But it was just like, screw it. It didn't matter, you know? And so I went to prison and, you know, got scared first time in prison. And I was like, you know what? I'm never doing that again. You couldn't pay me to do drugs. Well, then after the newness wore off of prison, it was like, yeah, you know, I'll be able to do drugs on the weekend. It's all right.
Yeah. Planning it out.
Yeah. I'm already like, man, you know, I'll be able to control it this time because I know what's going on. You know, I've been clean for a year now or 6 months or whatever. Like my head's in the right spot. Like I'll be able to control it this time. And it took probably 2 years, give or take, maybe a little longer, before I could finally come to the point that I said, you know what? I cannot do this anymore, because it was doing it on the weekends that got me into the position I was in. You know, Chris, I was talking to myself, Chris, you know, like, you're not going to be able to, you'll take that $25 sack of dope and do it all in one line. Like you're not going to make it be able to last for the weekend.
Yeah.
So it took 2 years before I finally came to that realization. And then it really took the remainder of my time before it was really just totally gone. No desire for it. No, like nothing. Like, well, not quite the remainder of the time, but it took a good little while before I was finally like, okay.
Yeah, it takes longer than 30 days.
Yeah,
you know,
days. Yeah, like
30 day. Oh, I'm better now. Like you haven't even gotten to the tip of the iceberg there.
No, you're not. 30 days sober isn't that you hadn't done shit, really. Like, I don't want to discount anything anybody's done, but 30 days is not anything when you're talking about dealing with an addiction.
And that's what, you know, one thing when we talked a little bit about, you know, some of the things I saw in the addiction field that I couldn't support was these kind of canned 30-day programs, you know, that are covered by insurance, and you go in and you get detox and you work a program. And I'm not going to discount that they do good work, because there's a lot of good work that can happen in that early, specifically for medical stability and kind of getting your head clear enough to make some choices. So in that regard, I don't discount those programs.
Right.
But the real work starts when you leave the programs.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to get someone to understand that that's step one, because, you know, you come out of a 30-day program and you feel pretty good. You feel sober. You might have cravings to use, and you might not have a really great aftercare plan. And that's some of the most dangerous. The majority of the overdoses that I've dealt with have been shortly after someone comes out of a short-term treatment, and their tolerance is down, and they're going to use one more time, and they don't start slow, they don't start low, and that's where a lot of the overdoses happen. So that's what scares me about someone going into a program like that and then not having a plan. And so this is going to sound really messed up, but I'm really glad that you were in prison and got that time.
Me too. Yeah, I am too. Like God knew what he was doing. He knew it was going to take 8 years for me to get my head on straight, because that's how long it took, was like, without a doubt. Not saying everybody's going to take 8 years, but I'm hard-headed, and
you need,
I needed it, but yeah, like, and going back to what you said about guys that get out and then overdose, I never shot it. Well, I shot it twice, but I was scared to do it because I ran with a crowd that looked down on people that shot it. And I was by myself, and I was scared I was going to mix it too strong and I was going to flop, or overamp, which, if y'all are not familiar with that, overamp is kind of like an overdose, but not to the point where you have to get hospitalized. You probably should. This is dopehead talking here. So
you're like, it's not as bad.
It's not as bad. You're just passed out a little bit. It's okay. But I was running around with guys, some of them, when they were shooting dope, they'd put 0.5 gram in a spoon, which is a lot of dope to do in one shot, y'all. Especially, it'd be a lot to snort, it'd be a lot to smoke, but to put that in a shot, and they would mix it really thick. They'd hardly put any water on it. They'd have to work the plunger to get it in. So we're talking, and like, not to do any kind of euphoric recall or anything, because I never did do that, but it's like a mixed drink. The more Sprite you put in your whiskey, the weaker it is. And it's the same thing when you're mixing up dope in a spoon. The less water you put, the stronger it's going to be whenever you inject it. So these guys were like hardcore, shooting $50 worth of drugs in their arm at a time. Thick, like syrup. So I can just imagine for those guys to come out of a 30-day or a 60-day program and then think they're going to put 0.5 gram of dope in their arm. Like, I can just see how that would cause an overdose, because they had to build up to that. So not having that and then doing whatever the drug is, it's going to cause your body to do some crazy things.
Yeah. And it's been, a lot of it's that one last time.
Last time. Yeah.
And
I thought your one last time was before you went in.
Yeah.
But if it's not voluntary, then it really wasn't their last time.
True. And that's why, the secret sauce to going into anything is having some willingness. And you can't sell that. You can't give that out. You can't force that upon someone. There has to be some level of willingness, or at least openness to willingness. Sometimes you just have to have, like I say, I don't need someone to be, gung-ho ready for treatment, but there's got to be a little crack somewhere. Yes. I can do a lot with a crack. You can get some logic in there sometimes. You can get some decision-making processes going by making really, really direct and delineated options. Like, you can keep using, and this is what's going to happen to your body and to your family and to your job, or you can try something different. Where can I meet you on that continuum, basically?
Exactly. So explain to us the difference so when people think intervention, I know I do, when you think intervention, you think the TV show.
Right.
And where it's just this, and I know that's a lot of it's probably scripted, and whether some of it's real or not, you don't ever know on those reality shows, but you trick somebody into thinking that it's a documentary about one thing, and then boom, your family slams you all of a sudden out of nowhere and tells you you're going to rehab. Like, who in their right mind would ever think that would be a good option for somebody in addiction? But people that have never dealt with it think, okay, this is the way it's going to be. How is what you do as a holistic interventionist, like when you do an intervention, how is it different than something you would see on TV?
See on TV. That's a really awesome question, Chris. Thanks for asking. What I always say is my best intervention is no intervention. Like I'm begging to be put out of ever having to do an intervention. And my goal is to work with the actual individual prior to any intervention happening. So, and that's called an assessment. So if a family calls me and they're saying, you know, my husband's doing, you know, drinking too much and blah, 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 you know, the first thing I want to find out is what's the real story there? Like, is it your perception of their use? Like, I need concrete, because not everyone that's drinking needs intervention or needs my services. So it's a lot of talking to the family involved to figure out, well, what are the indicators that there's an actual problem going on here, and not just your perception. And I can tell pretty quick, Chris, because sometimes at that point, when I start probing into what behaviors they might be doing, then it might be a hard stop. So I can weed out a lot of folks when they're like, well, I don't have a problem. My kids don't have a problem. No one has a problem. It's just him. And I need you to fix him. Well, I'm not your girl. Like there's plenty of high dollar slick interventionists that will go trick your husband or intervene, and I'm just not going to do that. So a lot of it's a weed out process that I take the time to do in the beginning, and I'm willing to turn down business. Like most inquiries don't turn into business for me. And then the next step is, hey, I want to talk to him, which is not traditionally how an intervention would work, right? You think intervention, you think the family comes together, the group comes together. Well, that's called a surprise intervention. That's one model of intervention. And I don't do that. So what it would be is, I want you to give your loved one my number, and I want you to see if they'll reach out and have a conversation with me. And you'd be surprised, but people take me up on that. And then what I do is an assessment with them. I give them an opportunity to tell their side of the situation. Like how's your physical health, your emotional, your spiritual, your job? How's everything going for you? Because clearly you use X, Y, or Z because your family's called me. So let's just stop saying you don't use, and let's start talking about how much, when, why, and what that looks like from a medical situation. And through that process, people will, you know, it's motivational interviewing, really. It's people to talk about where they're at and where they want to be. And then I offer them options. Like, based on what you're saying, you may need medical detox, and that these are some safe ways that you can do that. Or based on what you're saying, you might do really well in an outpatient program, and here are some great programs in your state. And so I'm offering them options, and then I have to back away. You know, so it depends what the family retains me for, whether or not they want an assessment and recommendations, or they want a holistic intervention. So that the next step would be looping back to the family and saying, okay, John, I'll use John because he's my character on LinkedIn.
Do you know John?
Yeah. I've talked to John, and guess what? John says he has no problem. You all are the problem. And so on. And then that starts, right? And then I start working with the family, and I say, okay, so John's not going to go to treatment right now. John is got everything under control in his mind. So now we're going to talk about what we're going to do as a family, how we're going to take care of ourselves. And that's where I work with the families to look at their own shit, really. That's, how are you contributing to use? How are you enabling use? How are you harming yourself by being involved in the use? And get the family unit family can be any, can involve work. It's whoever's participating, and set boundaries and start taking care of themselves. And slowly over time, and Chris, sometimes this is 6 to 8 months.
So it's definitely a marathon.
John starts going,
"Hey, Jen, that's one of my besties right there.
I love her.
I love me some Jennifer Brick, man.
Fangirl."
Yeah, I know, right? Fangirl.
I'm like, oh, now I'm all nervous.
I know. I see.
Jenny's here.
First funny story, not to interrupt you. Let me tell a funny story about Jen. First time I ever Zoomed with Jen, I did a post, an Ending the Stigma post. And, right. I know, right? One of the first times, and she was like, "Hey, I'm a criminal justice major. I'd love to jam with you sometime about the criminal justice system. Let's set up a call." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And I'd already been connected to her and all her posts and everything. And we got on the Zoom, and I was like, "Jen, I feel like I'm meeting a celebrity." And she got just dead stone cold serious. And she was like, "Chris, don't make it weird." And I was like, "Okay."
I know. I just totally made it weird. I can't even remember what I was talking about, because now I'm like, I don't know, between you and Jennifer Brick and my chips.
Yeah. So you were talking about a 6 to 8 month process working with the family.
Yeah, I mean, it can go on that long, and I'll get to this when in my Do You Know John posts, but John starts looking around going, what the hell are these people doing?
Yeah.
Wait, everyone's taking care of themselves. Everyone is doing what they need to do. No one's on my ass anymore. No one's bailing me out of this stuff anymore. No one's telling me what to do. And then often that person reaches back out, or that person becomes engaged in the process, and their readiness has changed.
Man, I love that.
So and I tell you what, I'm not high volume, but I'm high quality. And this method, I'm not the only type of interventionist that does this model, but man, it works.
Yeah. I love the Do You Know John series too. Like, that is freaking epic. It's epic.
And I think that's what we're going to end up. I'm kind of going along as the crowd responds to what we're going to do with John, but it's really leaning towards John's just not going to take my hand and go to treatment. I mean, John's an executive.
Yeah.
John.
He's the alpha male, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And he's going to blow smoke up my ass. Like, I know John. I've been the nurse to a lot of Johns in my years. And
or as Jen would say, a corporate Chad.
Yeah. So I absolutely I'm going to demonstrate this process with John, because he's a great example of someone that, I can't just go in there. We can't surprise John and say, guess what we've been planning, John? You're going to treatment. Like, that's not going to work. But I have a feeling that John's going to get well. It's going to be more on his own terms, but he's going to get there.
Yeah. Going back to what you said about the family member coming to you first and saying, "Hey, my husband's drinking too much. You need to fix him." Like, the very first thing that popped in my head was, yeah, but what are you doing to contribute to that? So I've got a friend that is an alcoholic. He and his wife just got a divorce, or within the past year or so. He drank way too much, like, without a doubt, way too much. Couldn't talk drunk almost every night, especially on the weekends. He'd drink, pass out in the afternoon, wake up, and get drunk all over again. But his wife also, she was an only child, but she also, we don't know this for sure because she wouldn't go to the doctor, but the signs of like a chemical imbalance were there. So there was a lot of tension, because she would be off in her chemical imbalance and not thinking straight or whatever. And then he'd be drinking all the time. So it was just a recipe for disaster. But she wouldn't ever go to the doctor because she would never admit there was any kind of problem, even though he would say, "Look, can we go check this out? Like, please, can we do this?" So it's not always just fix the drinking.
No.
Like what's going on in the family that might be, I won't mess this word up, exacerbating. Is that how you pronounce it? EXACERB, whatever. Making it worse, exasperating. Yeah, thank you. What is it? What else is going on that's making it worse?
Exactly.
Or adding to it?
You know, there's so much that we don't know about addiction, but we do know that it doesn't exist in a silo. Almost never is it, you know, someone that gets into severe use disorder and is suffering from addiction, they've had some help to get there. And that's not to blame the other people, but it's a lot of hard work to keep up with a hardcore use. And you've got people that you're leaning on, that are paving the way and cleaning up and contributing in some way or another. And like we talked about earlier, like you remove the drink if you don't deal with the underlying problem. And that'll happen too. Someone might get sober, get clean, and then they come back to the same family environment. And
it's just a recipe for disaster.
It is. It absolutely is. So to treat just one person and to not treat the whole family, like I won't even recommend a treatment program that doesn't have a family program that goes with it. So if I'm able to even get somebody into treatment, or they're able to accept my help to get them into treatment, one of the major factors is, what is your family going to be doing while you're in treatment? Because family's in treatment as well.
So you don't do any kind of treatment, is that right? You just kind of open the door, maybe work with them to get their mind where they're in the right place to go get treatment and do the assessment. And
I do. I guess, you know, I'm not a counselor, but I am a case manager. I'm a nurse case manager. So people that opt for outpatient programs will often keep me as their advocate and as their case manager to advocate for them at medical appointments, to do accountability, to do goal setting. Like, I don't want to use the word coach because I'm not a coach.
Right.
But I have several clients that I've been working with for months now that have either completed a program or were in an outpatient program. And now we're doing medication management. We're doing life skills. We're goal setting. We're doing relapse prevention. So there's a lot of things that I do to assist people on all continuum that, you know, intervention is just one piece. I like to follow people and stick with them for a long time. And my favorite clients, my absolute joys, are people that reach out to me because they know they have a problem and they want to get well. I mean, that's just like, I mean, I'll start crying right now. Like when somebody reaches out and they're like, you know what, Amy, like something you read or someone that I know that you've worked with or something you wrote, like I want your help. Like, what do I need to do? And then to go through that process completely vulnerable and willing, and then you can find them. I mean, not only do they get to tell their story to me, but we get to look at all of their medical history, all of their comorbidities, things that are going on with their mental health, and really find some awesome options for them. So it's not just like Googling alcohol treatment centers near me. I mean, I don't recommend a treatment program unless I've had a firsthand experience with them, or I have done an extensive vetting process with them. That's probably what I spend half my time doing is sifting through resources and finding the gems out there. Because, you know, if you're a single mom or single dad and you need to bring your kid to treatment, I have a solution for that. If you need to bring your pet, I have a solution for that. If you want to do art therapy and yoga all day, I got that. Like, I know where those places are. And
I think that's amazing because, and I hadn't seen one in a while, but there used to be all the time commercials on TV for inpatient rehab centers that looked like 5-star resorts that were covered by all or most major medical. And so it's a money-making
Oh yeah.
thing, you know, and the fact that you research it and you don't just recommend this place because it's got a 5-star rating on Google
Mm-mm.
or whatever, you know what I mean? Yes, exactly. Through the whole process, the support through the whole process. Absolutely.
Thanks,
Um,
Jenny.
I lost my train of thought. Dadgummit, Jen.
Yeah, that I
Oh,
know
it's
these
not a cookie
places.
cutter. Yeah, you
Yeah,
don't just go to cookie cutter places. You do research and find the best fit for them or what you feel like would be the best fit for them and make the recommendation.
absolutely. And I don't, people ask me like, do you work for the treatment facilities or do you take kickbacks or and it's like, I don't do any of that. This is
Yeah.
all my network. This is all nursing ethics and getting
Mm-hmm.
to know people, and a lot of really snarky posts on LinkedIn about the type of treatment centers I don't like, because you can find, I ask for exactly what I want out of places, and then
Mm-hmm.
really high quality people reach out to me and they say, Amy, I want to tell you about what we're doing at XYZ. Like
Mm-hmm.
the good places find me because
Mm-hmm.
I don't sugarcoat what my expectations are.
Mm-hmm.
And they know that I'm going to be calling, checking, following up, and every promise they make better be kept.
Yeah.
And, there's,
And that's awesome to have somebody for them on the outside that's doing that. Like Jen
mhm,
said, with the support through the whole entire process, somebody that's not the family,
yeah.
because the family tends to be biased on everything. You know, I worked in the county jail before I was in the county jail. Um, but the family's always, well, you're mistreating, and county jail sucks. I'm not saying it doesn't, but the same principle would apply to a rehab center. They get if they get phone calls or
Oh,
whatever,
yeah.
if they get a phone call saying this place is terrible, then they're going to be burning the phone up, wanting to talk to the
Oh, yeah.
administrator. So to have somebody that's not family and that can say, okay, he's really doing fine. That just because he didn't get green beans tonight doesn't mean he's going. You know what I'm saying? Just little stuff like that. There's a difference in
No,
having
I mean,
somebody
it's
that's not
true.
the
It's
family.
advocacy on both sides. It's
Yes.
advocacy for the program and for what's
Yes.
expected, but it's also advocacy for the person going through the program, because they do have rights, and they do have rights to
Right.
reasonable expectations.
Sure.
So
Sure.
it's definitely both ways. But when somebody wants to leave treatment or leave against medical advice or is refusing treatments that could be life-saving, often the first thing they'll do is they'll call their counterpart from the treatment center, whoever that is, the boyfriend, girlfriend, mom, dad, whoever's been somewhat supportive of them through the whole process, and in some ways supporting their use, even though that's not their
Mm-hmm.
intention.
Mm-hmm.
They'll call them, this place is horrible. Oh, get me out of here. Get me out of here. And they'll get rescued, because that's what the
Yeah.
family's used to doing. They're used to
Right.
rescuing.
Right.
And so, no, the first call, if someone's working with me, the first call when you want to leave, is to me.
Mm-hmm.
And let me hear what's going on. And it's
Mm-hmm.
a way different communication that happens that way.
Yes. I can see that 100%.
And it's really special for me, not
Yeah.
because they trust me enough to know that I'm going to help them make a good
Mm-hmm.
decision. And
Well, you've
that's
already, by the time you get to the point where you're recommending a place or recommending a treatment, you've already built that trust with them.
Yeah.
Because you've been working with them for months.
Absolutely.
It's not just some counselor that their parole officer makes them go see. It's for real. It's something that, one, they've paid you money, but two, you've earned that money and that trust.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And the only time I do anything that's like a surprise, if you will, is I call it an urgent intervention. I just want to be transparent, because I do that.
Mm-hmm.
Is if someone is in jail and about to be let out, and basically they need someone to move them from jail to a treatment facility, because that's condition of their, that's in their best interest for their
Mm-hmm.
legal situation, etc. So I will transport and help someone in that situation. And there's not that rapport. It's kind of
Right.
like, hi, I'm the nurse that's going to take you to treatment.
Right.
Hi, do you
Right.
want me, or do you want to go back into jail? Like, I feel bad, but I also can do it in a really empathetic way. Or sometimes when people are in the hospital and they're on a psychiatric hold, and it's like, no, you can't go home because you're on a hold, but what you can do is you can go to this treatment center, or you can go to this next level of care, and I can take you there. And so that's, I don't always get that time to build that rapport. And so a lot of it is like that, come with the nurse, like, you just have to trust me. And it usually goes okay, but not always.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Not always.
So whenever you're doing this kind of stuff, like, do you work in a hospital too, or do you, like, not like trying to get nosy up in your business, I'm just curious, like, do you work in a hospital too, and then you do this
like on the side
on the
kind of thing?
side, or is
So
this?
I consider this my main mission. But I do also, I'm a nursing instructor. So I
Okay.
teach student nurses. I do that on an adjunct level. So pretty part-time, but I do that because I teach the psychiatric component in nursing, and I teach about substance use. And I also get to take nurses to clinical, where they learn how to interact with patients for the first time. So I do that to support my income, so that I don't have to take clients that aren't a great fit.
Right.
But I also do it because
You
I
just love
really
doing
enjoy,
it.
I really love it. I
Yeah.
really love teaching nurses.
Well, that's awesome.
And I am looking at doing some as needed work in a psychiatric hospital here locally, because I think it's important to stay. One thing as a nurse is you sign up for lifelong learning. And if you're not, in order for me to continue to provide my independent consultation at the level that I do, I have to be active in the field.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I do. I consider it more professional development and like ethical kind of responsibility. Like I want to hold up my commitment as a nurse and do my part to make sure that my skills are up to date and evidence-based and all that.
Right on. Gabe, appreciate you dropping in, man. Good to see you.
Hey, Gabe.
Yeah.
Oh, I just got a connection from Gabe.
Gabe, look, I shout him out all the time every time he shows up. Gabe's a live stream producer, and he does a post every day on different people that are doing live streams that day.
Really?
And just
Is that how you guys connected?
Yeah, well, I don't even remember how we connected, but we've just started talking a lot more. I was a guest on his show Friday. He's going to be a guest next week. But he's really doing a lot to support live stream content creators.
Oh, that's
and do
cool.
all he can to get them out there, get their shows out there. He drops by, even if it's only for a minute. He'll drop by for a minute, say hi, make a few comments, and he may stay for the whole thing. He's got kids running around at home, so he doesn't always get to, but it was hilarious Friday. And I give him props, man, 100%. Like, he let his kids be the kids and play and run around, but he got on the computer and did a live stream. So the kids were in the background hollering and screaming and playing, and it was just awesome. It was cool. He's doing a lot to support the live stream community.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, and he's from Texas too. He's about 2.5 hours from me. So I'm gonna get up there to see him one of these days.
Well, thank you so much for letting me. I feel like I talked the whole time about my jam, but
that's why I wanted you on here. Like I said in the post, you've dealt with a lot of things, or you deal with a lot of things that I've gone through, and I was like, well, let's get Amy on. Like, I've got a whole list of people going in my head that I want to get on, and it's just who comes to mind at a given week. I should write this stuff down so I can. Yeah, man, and we appreciate it, Gabe. We really do.
Yeah, it's so cool, and you're so cool, Chris. I'm so glad I proposed to you.
I am too. Like, and that's why I had you come on my live. We wanted to announce it to the world that we're engaged. I don't know how it's going to work out just yet because you're in Iowa. Idaho.
Idaho.
Yeah, Idaho. And I'm in Texas, but love knows no boundaries.
There you go. Well, I've made a lot of really lasting connections by being a little bit impulsive in the comments, because I think well, I guess that would be a lot impulsive, not a little impulsive.
It's a lot impulsive,
but
for sure.
you sometimes you got to stop the scroll, right? Like,
Yeah,
I got to be like,
exactly.
hey, Chris, well, look, I got to be on live with you.
Exactly. What I think she deals more with chemical dependencies, man.
Although pornography, I do pornography. I don't do love addiction, but there is such a thing, but I wouldn't know where to begin with that.
And a lot of people don't realize that with porn, that porn is just like a drug. It starts off a little bit, and then you build up a tolerance to it.
You build up a tolerance
to it. You build up a tolerance to it. Yep.
Oh yeah, it's a huge one, and it works in the reward system in the brain very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And there can be physical and psychological withdrawal in the process that we know of now too.
That's
so
crazy.
Saying, oh, just turn the computer off already. Well, if someone's using porn 16 hours a day, cold turkey and that stuff is not an easy feat. And your reward system, again, is it's off kilter. So your ability to experience pleasure outside of porn, or whether it's intimacy with your partner, or if it's just everyday life, you're completely desensitized. So it's that's a whole nother live.
Yeah, that's a whole nother live. We may have
Chris
to do
and
that
Amy talk porn.
Yeah. That would be a hell of a live, man. We may do that one on YouTube only.
I know some of these things I say, and then they get clipped and they get misinterpreted is what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just do this one on YouTube. If y'all want to join, y'all come to YouTube.
Well, I wish I could give you some of my chips.
Yeah, I know it.
Maybe I'll have to send you your favorite. What's your favorite chocolate?
Oh, Reese's Fast Break is my favorite candy bar, or any kind of Reese's, really.
Have you had these guys?
I have, and those are awesome.
The dark chocolate thins. It says it's the perfect amount, sized for delight, it says.
I just think of they're smaller. So, I mean, I put a whole one in my mouth anyway, but they're just smaller. That way I can put two in my mouth and it's all good.
No, it's deliciously proportioned is what it is. That's what it says. Yep.
All right.
That's all I got. I'll send you some.
All right. Amy, this was a great conversation, man. Like, I had a blast tonight.
I know awesome. We talked about some heavy stuff, but I just feel like you're just such a good human. You have such good energy, and it was so nice talking to you.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed it too. And they can't all be fun and games, but I mean, we laughed and cut up in the middle of it. But I mean, like I said, this is a subject that's near and dear to my heart because I've lived through it and know what it's like. So yeah, I enjoyed it. Thank you so much for coming on.
You're proof that people recover.
Yeah, exactly. You can recover. And, there's a whole controversy or whatever and we were talking about this beforehand about some programs that talk about, my name's Chris and I'm an alcoholic or a drug addict or whatever. I personally feel that I am not an addict anymore. Like, I've put that behind me and there's no desire to do it. And I've been through a lot of shit here lately and there still hadn't been a desire to do it like that. It didn't trigger me,
right.
To even want to go drink or want to go do drugs. So there is proof that you can get past it and
Absolutely.
You can still be successful and have a good life.
And you don't have to accept that label.
You don't have to accept that label.
No, you don't have to identify with that. That's not a criteria to experience recovery.
And
it's really not.
Yeah, and contrary to popular belief, you don't have addict stamped across your forehead, man.
No.
Like, you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to talk about it. But like you said, it's possible that this is not going to define your life for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. And I think that's probably the biggest message we could send out today, Chris, is screw that. I don't even call people.
Stigma. Yeah.
The only person that can call themselves an addict, or I have never used that term. If someone wants to call themselves an addict, like, I can't stop them, but no one is defined by their disease, not any medical disease, nothing.
Exactly.
And so we wouldn't do that with any other illness. So I don't know why we need to do that to ourselves with mental health. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yep. I agree 100%.
So that's the thing we did.
That's the thing we did, and we did it damn good. All right. Well, Amy, again, I appreciate it so much. Thank you for everybody that was in the comments. Jen, I don't know if you're still here, but thank you for dropping by. Gabe,
thanks for listening, whoever listened. I can't see on this end, so I don't know.
No.
I'm just hoping, but you know what? I had a great time talking to you, Chris.
Yeah,
so
I did too. That's what I tell people. Like, it doesn't matter whether one person shows up or not. I always have fun with my guests. Like, we always talk about whatever. And, you know, like I told you before, I treat these. And then you've got Gabe showing up in the comments.
Yes.
Yes, that is a resounding yes from a medical professional, Gabe.
Yes. Taking time for yourself, Gabe.
Yes. Important. Leave it to Gabe to having a serious conversation, and he's gonna drop in here with some funny stuff. I love it though. Like, I love it. Because that's the kind of shit I would do. Like, I'd drop in with some funny stuff too.
Well, you got to keep it light. A lot. And I think that's why I keep it light in comments, because, you know, a lot of my content is really heavy. Yeah. And what I do is really heavy, but I'm also a pretty, like, I don't know, I think I'm fun.
Yeah, definitely fun. Absolutely.
And so, you know, I like people to see that side, because no one wants to interact or hire or be friends or work with someone that can't laugh and see the humor in life. Like, that's so important. So
exactly.
So 100%. I appreciate you, Gabe. Thanks for keeping it light.
Yeah, right. All right, y'all. I appreciate it. Tomorrow night at 7 p.m., I am live with 𝙏𝙝𝙞 𝙇𝙄𝙑𝙀.
Oh, that's going to be good.
Yeah, I've never met her in real life either, so I'm going to have to ask her how to pronounce her name to make sure I'm pronouncing it right, but I'm going to assume that's it. 𝙏𝙗𝙀 𝙇𝙄𝙑, she helps people heal from toxic relationships, and if y'all have never seen any of her posts or videos, go check her out. You can just, like, especially when she does the videos and she's talking, like, you can just feel the love for people oozing out of her. Like, I can. DJ is in the house. What is up, DJ? All these people showing up at the last minute, or my comments are just coming in. Kenny, you were late, brother. We're shutting it down, man. Thanks for coming by, DJ. I appreciate it. You too, Kenny, even if you are late. Yeah, me too. You missed a good one, DJ. We were talking about addiction and stuff. It's all right. Life happens, man. Life happens. I don't make nearly as many shows as I would like. All right. I'm going to shut it down. Otherwise, they're going to get the comments kicking off, and we're never going to get out of here.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Chris. You're awesome.
Thank you, Amy. Y'all have a good one.